Hello and welcome to Africa Today. I am Esther Mokwariola. From past struggles to present-day discontent, history has shown that South Africa is largely a society of people with strong views on economy and politics. So assuming you come up with a riddle asking the average South Africans what doubles as a controversy with 4 wives and a cat with 9 lives, answers are likely to point in one direction: Jacob Zuma. And so we ask, what are your thoughts on political developments in South Africa as President Jacob Zuma survived his latest no-confidence vote in Parliament? You can join the conversation and share your thoughts with us on Twitter at TVC News NG. We take a report, and Africa Today will continue. Welcome on board.
Now dubbed the proverbial cat with 9 lives, President Jacob Zuma has survived yet another vote of no confidence 8 times in his 8th year in office. The president in his victory speech said that the African National Congress Party, ANC, was united and the opposition could not take power through parliament.
The ANC was voted by the overwhelming majority of the masses of this country. No party has ever received such a number. Now, if you talk about people who are representing the majority and the public in this country, it is the African National Congress.
But his victory didn't come without a fierce battle. The debates were centered around allegations by the opposition that Zuma's administration was corrupt.
We must at all times respect the wish of the people. And that's why we are here to make it very clear that ours today is not against the ANC, but against the father of Duduzane.
I am asking you to vote today, to vote for hope. The hope that we can defeat the corruption that oppresses our people. The hope that a prosperous nation at peace with itself and with the world. The hope, fellow South Africans, that we can make South Africa a better place for our children. If we do the right thing today, we will give our children a better future that they deserve.
His supporters in the parliament countered that with the argument that the opposition is seeking to topple the ANC. His fate hung in the balance with the possibility of his tenure coming to a sudden end as the lawmakers opted for secret ballots. With 249 seats, it would be a hard sell to vote Zuma out, as the opposition's 151 seats meant it needed 50 ANC lawmakers backing them for the no-confidence vote to pass. A total of 384 parliamentarians voted, with 177 supporting the vote of no confidence. More than half of the voters opposed the motion, while 9 lawmakers abstained, handing Jacob Zuma another hard-fought victory over the raging opposition in South Africa.
South African President Jacob Zuma narrowly survived another no-confidence vote in Parliament, the most serious attempt yet to unseat him after months of growing anger over allegations of corruption and a sinking economy. While the motion got the boot by 198 votes to 177, with 9 absent, more than 2 dozen ANC lawmakers supported the no-confidence vote, which underlined how unpopular the president has become. Joining me in the studio on Africa Today, I have Daniel Akinlami, political analyst in Nigeria. Good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you.
And on phone, I have Jindele Hungu, lecturer and researcher based in Mafikeng, South Africa. Good to have you as well on the program.
Thank you very much.
Now, let me begin the show with you, Daniel. The minority in this case might have had their say, but the majority surely had their way. But one would rightly is trying to understand what really played out in this vote that was held in secret.
Well, I think the politics that was behind this particular no confidence vote started early last year when the court ruled that Jacob Zuma had violated the constitution for not refunding the taxpayers' money that was spent to renovate his personal estate. And the politicking continues since then. But this particular no confidence vote was propelled by the cabinet reshuffle that happened March this year, where the finance minister, Mr. Godham, was removed suddenly. And I think since then, coupled with the increasing corruption allegation against Mr. Zuma's government, he has been battling with this corruption issue since 2009. So the agitation continued to increase, that the level of corruption perpetrated under his government. And coupled with the fact that there's also another allegation of his government being hijacked by a wealthy family in South Africa. So all these factors put together what propelled the opposition parties to make a move for this particular no confidence vote. And what we've seen yesterday is the fact that he won at the floor to survive impeachment. But his case is more like winning a battle out of a war. But let me quickly draw the difference between the last no confidence vote that took place on April 5th, 2016, where he clearly survived another round of impeachment plots. But the difference then and now is the fact that that particular vote then, he got 233 parliamentarians having confidence in his government, compared to yesterday, where he got 198 people. You can see the sharp contrast. About 35 parliamentarians since that April 5th last year has lost confidence in him. And if you look at it clearly, at least 30 of those 35 could be ANC parliamentarians. So the clear indication is there that there are still challenges and battle ahead for him. He still has a lot to weather through before his remaining 2 years will be exhausted. But more so, another instructive thing in what happened yesterday is that the opposition group too are not losers. They've gained ground. For the first time, they were able to change some certain rules in the parliament that they succeeded in having secret votes, which has been impossible for years. And secondly, they built some moral strength to go into 2019 election. They've built values that they can use to keep deflating the strength of ANC. The same thing they did last year in the local government election. So I believe ANC has a lot to lose. If they go and relax and fail, they still control the majority.
All right, General Hungwa, I believe you just had Daniel Akinlami's view on this. Do you share the same sentiments as well?
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting. I agree to a large extent with him. But we need to go back to the basics a little bit to look at what actually happened yesterday and the antecedents of the secret ballot votes that was held in the South African Parliament. It started as a combination of a constitutional issue and a moral issue. The South African populace seems to not be too satisfied with the way government has run in the last few years under Jacob Zuma. They have also expressed a lot of disaffection with certain policies that Zuma's government had put in place. And that has also led to street protests asking for Zuma to step down. But again, to go constitutional, the only authority that could remove Zuma from office was either the judiciary or the parliament. And so using the parliamentary option to pass a vote of no confidence in Zuma, which might then result in his stepping aside or stepping down from office, was the option that they sought. And then the parliamentarians, especially from the opposition perspective, had thought that it was not possible to remove him in the previous 7 attempts that were made, simply because the votes were public. They were open ballot. And so, don't forget that when the court gave judgment, it was not even categorically stated that the parliament had to, as a matter of a constitutional demand, do a secret ballot. But the judgment had pushed the parliament to the extent that the speaker, Baleka Mbete, had no choice than to accept that the vote of no confidence be conducted in the secret ballot format. And if you look at the outcome of the votes, yeah, everyone's been saying, yeah, it's very close, which is correct. Yeah, it's very close to call. Zuma had just about 21 or 22 votes helping him to retain power. But again, people should not think that everyone in opposition will probably vote against Zuma. I don't believe so. Because when elections become secret, you cannot predict what everyone is going to do. It is possible that some of the votes that counted in favor of Zuma might also be coming from the opposition side. Of course, it is clear that some of his own party members have voted against him. Don't forget that the National Convention of the party is coming up in December. And so already there's a succession crisis. So the succession battle has already begun in the ANC. And so the ANC is no longer united.
All right. Let me hold your thoughts for now, Jedele. We need to go on this very quick break. You're watching Africa Today, and we've been looking at the political developments in South Africa as President Jacob Zuma survived his latest no-confidence vote in Parliament. Welcome back. President Jacob Zuma, who has never been far from scandal since he became president in 2009, has been accused of allowing the state to be captured by the Guptas, an influential Indian family in South Africa. The latest no-confidence motion was brought to Parliament by the Democratic Alliance in response to a cabinet reshuffle in March, when President Zuma sacked popular Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan. Now, Daniel, before we went on break, Jindele Humbo was giving his own perspectives on this, and he believes that, with the vote, no one knows who exactly voted for the confidence vote or those who voted against the confidence vote. It could be from the opposition, it could be from the ruling party. But either way, this has more or less put a test on the ANC, where about 26 members of parliament of the ANC supported the vote against supported the no-confidence vote against Jacob Zuma. Now, let's look at this. How much of an impact do you think this level of which the ANC, some members of the party, took this action, how much of it do you think it would have on the unity of the party? Do you think they can stand the test of time?
Well, I think it's going to be quite difficult for them to rally their members together now, having in mind that the politics of the succession is coming up, and the campaign is already going on the ground now, even though they've not lifted the ban on campaign. So many of the members are already working towards the succession of Jacob Zuma in December. So, and in the usual way, every time ANC has gone into the leadership election, the same thing happened when Thabo Mbeki won, and when Jacob Zuma even defeated Thabo Mbeki too in 2007. You always have a splinter group that will walk out of the party. So even as it is now, with the Jacob Zuma crisis on one side, the regular election cycle that they usually have challenges in reining in their members after every election. So the chances for ANC to weather through this is quite slim now. So, but the best Jacob Zuma could have done is not to carry his own burden, his own liability as a leader of the party into this December election. So if he was wise, he should have considered the survival of the party compared to the survival of his own government. So where we are now, they have two challenges. You look at the performance of the party in the last local government election. It's one of the very worst in recent time. They had about 54%. And there are predictions already if they do not put their house together,
2019
going into 2019, they may have less than 50%.
They wouldn't want to have that so quickly.
So one of the options available to the party is also for Jacob Zuma to consider the baggages he has brought upon the party.
Right.
If he's wise enough to consider an exit plan so that there can be another president.
All right, Jendele, from what we've just discussed so far, the no confidence vote has been analyzed by, especially by those of the ANC, that it is an attempt to, well, grab power by the opposition. Now, if that is the case, should that be seen as what likely played out here, that the opposition is really in a quest for power?
Well, in a political game, you know that opposition party would want power, the same way that the incumbent party would want to hold on to the same power. But for the ANC, I think they have suddenly found themselves between the devil and the deep blue sea. And so it's going to be quite difficult for them to say, now Zuma must go. Because if they insist that Zuma must go, it means they must have a succession plan in which they have someone in mind who can hold the party together, better than Zuma has done. And that is not to say that Zuma has been the best person so far in holding the party together. Now, the other options they have, you have Baleka Mbete, who's chairman of the ANC, who is also the Speaker of Parliament. You also have Zuma's deputy, Cyril Ramaphosa, who, interestingly, has already shown interest in the race for 2019. So it's going to be difficult to, before December, say Zuma should either step down and allow Ramaphosa to come on. The other people in the party who do not see Ramaphosa as a good replacement for Jacob Zuma might not allow that to work properly. Again, Jacob Zuma himself has, through his body language, shown that he's interested in installing Dlamini Zuma, who is his ex-wife, as the next president of the party and next president of the country. And so, if you look at all these dynamics, it becomes very difficult to see one individual who can come up and hold the party together between now and December when they go to Congress and when they begin to make preparations for elections in 2019. Having said that, though, the opposition itself, yes, they might want to grab power, but the two major opposition parties, the Democratic Alliance and the EFF, seem to me not to have matured enough to be able to run a government single-handedly as opposition political parties if they have the opportunity of getting elected.
Why do you think so?
Yeah, because, I mean, if you look at the leadership structures of these two political parties, they also have their own issues. Now, in the EFF, for example, I do not think that Julius Malema has matured to that extent to which people want to entrust him with the power of running the country as the sole government in power. So what we are likely to see, or what might be easier for them to do, would be for the opposition parties to come together to run a joint campaign in which everyone knows that they're going to set up a coalition government that will take over power from the ANC. But the difficulty in that is that there is a lot of divisions. There's a lot of gaps when it comes to questions of ideology. These are political parties that do not have same ideological orientations. Take, for example, on the land question, the EFF insists that they would want to see a situation where the black people will seize the land without compensation. But the DA takes a different opinion to that. And these are very key issues that will come to play in the campaign for 2019. The question is also there about South Africa's foreign policy, especially as concerns Africa and the rest of the world. There's a question of the BRICS, which South Africa has helped a lot in putting together in the last few years. So those are critical areas where it will be very difficult for both the DA and the EFF to come together. If it were possible for these two parties to find a common ground in terms of ideological orientation, one would have said yes, it would be easy for them to capture power.
Right.
But if things remain the way they are, it's not going to be as easy as people think it might be.
Well, I couldn't say more. Quite a tussle there in South African politics with what Jendele just said. But if you were to look at this matter in terms of ANC's long bearing in the scheme of politics, being the oldest ruling party in South Africa, and of course being the oldest liberation movement in the country. 2019 isn't far away. Are we likely to see an opposition? Because even though there's this difference between the two, the DA and the EFF, judging from what Jendele just mentioned, are we likely to see an opposition party wrestling power finally in 2019?
Well, as it is now, ANC is being demystified, no thanks to Jacob Zuma. But going into 2019, beyond the weakness of ANC, where is the replacement? So if ANC couldn't gather the majority, I quite agree with Jendele on that area. Look at EFF. Julius Malema has not demonstrated the kind of quality or maturity that you expect as an alternative to Jacob Zuma. And the other party too,
the DA.
The DA. So it will take them all to come together to form a formidable coalition before they can actually take South Africa to the next level. So it's a big dilemma. The people don't want ANC because of what Jacob Zuma has brought as baggage. So they have this leadership deficiency. So if they are able to wriggle through this before 2019, there might be resurgence of interest in ANC. But if they could not manage the leadership transition well, then the hope and aspiration of the people will continue to go towards the opposition parties. But the question now is that, is these opposition parties, are they ready to provide alternative leadership? Right. So where we are now, I think we should expect these parties to come together and form a coalition that can actually provide a better leadership than what we have now from ANC.
All right, Jendele, now before we let you go, what next are we expecting in South Africa in terms of what the people should expect, the outcome from this?
Well, I think in the next few days, there will be a lot of movement. Within the ANC, there will be attempts to see if they can reunite the party, especially at the level of the cabinet, which also involves people who are in parliament, because there are serious divisions even among the ministers. There are some ministers whose body language show that they're not pro-Zuma that much. So I guess at the ANC itself, we'll try to rally around and see if it can salvage something to have a better standing. Then again, the opposition parties will also want to kind of consolidate on the gains that they have made from this the outcome of the vote of no confidence. It's part of the fact that the opposition did not win. They have made appreciable progress, and the outcome is better than things they had seen in the past. And so they are inching closer to getting Zuma out of office. But again, the other option might be to say, well, I mean, it's just going to be in December. Why not wait? So if we don't see any other vote of no confidence motion coming out in Parliament, then Zuma might then serve out his term once another person replaces him at the convention in December.
Right. Thanks a lot, Jendele Humbo, lecturer and researcher based in Mafeking, South Africa. We appreciate your analysis on the program. And as well, Daniel Akinlami, political analyst here with us in the country, Nigeria. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
At a time when the president is seen to have won the battle but is likely to lose the war, politics in South Africa remains an unfolding story of how the opposition can keep a government on its toes and hold leadership accountable. In the end, the biggest lesson for South Africans is that participating in the 2019 elections will be the most important thing they have done since 1994, knowing that position belongs to the privileged just as power belongs to the people. Well, that is our package for today, but don't forget to join the conversation on Twitter at TVCNG, and also follow me for updates around Africa at Esther TVC News. Until the next one, I am Esther Omokwariola, and always remember, change starts with you.